Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to repair an NES which has a messed up 72-pin connector, and as well as to replace one if you have a new one that you've ordered offline or something like that. Generally the 72-pin connector will go out because, whenever you depress the cartridge into the console, it's actually bending the pins just slightly, so after repeated use it can wear it out. And especially if you use the Game Genies are brutal on the 72-pin connector. But having a bad 72-pin connector will cause your power light to just kind of blink whenever you turn it on. It's a pretty common problem in most NESs that have seen their use, and which is a pretty annoying problem. But it's easily fixable, fortunately, and it's very cost efficient to do so. So let's get started. Alright, so here I've got my NES and my microphone because my laptop mic is not working currently for some reason. But I have that. Here's my brand new 72-pin connector. I ordered it offline for $7 after shipping, I believe, and a Phillips head standard screwdriver. So, alright. First things first, you have 6 screws on the bottom of your NES, and so it's pretty standard. You just open up the NES itself. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and lastly 6. Now you're going to want to keep these in a specific pile because there are several different types of screws which we'll be removing. So I recommend, having a couple of glasses handy or something where you can sit different types of screws in them. But to open up the console, after you've taken out the screws, just sit it top side up and just kind of lift up on the plastic and it should come right off. And this will reveal the innards of the console. You can see here. You have this little metal shielding right above the top of the console. And I've already removed a couple of the screws for my own personal ease, but there should be, I believe, 6 screws. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 8 screws on various parts of this little metal shield. You'll be able to see them very easily. And once you remove those, then this little metal casing will come off and you can actually begin to work on the console. So I'm going to start to do that now. As you can see, once the screws come off, the metal shielding plate just slides right off from the top. Make sure to keep those screws separate though, because those ones are actually different from the ones that are screwed into the bottom of the console. Next thing we have to do is we need to be able to lift this cartridge piece up, and we actually cannot do that yet because there are actually a couple more screws right down in here. I'm not sure if you can see, there's one there and there's one over here as well. So you need to undo those first, and then you will actually be able to access, you'll be able to lift up this entire piece. You could take out the innards of your NES if you really so wanted to. So I'm going to begin to unscrew those now. Well, I don't know if you could see what I just did, but the screw fell in between there. Once you're this far in, it's kind of risky to tip the thing over, so I'm going to, but make sure if you do it to hold your hand on the top of the console so your console doesn't come pouring out, because these buttons are still kind of firmly in there that show up on the front and the controller ports, and if the console falls out, it'll yank on those wires, which is pretty bad. So alright, I'm going to get the screw out. These screws are also different, so different pile, obviously. Our next step is to remove the cartridge slot, like this little plastic casing. There are 6 screws on there, and as you can see, there are 2 up here on each side, and then there's one towards the top as well. Now this middle one, the one right there, is actually, there's one on each side, and it's actually a different size from the rest on this tray. So make sure you separate this one and that one over there on the top side from the rest of the screws, because they're a little bit longer so they can reach a little further down, and they're the last piece that's holding our console together. So we'll work on taking that out now. Alright, now to get out this little tray, you actually need to pull forward on the front first and lift up, and then slowly kind of wiggle it backwards, because otherwise it won't pull up, because there's actually like a lip on the end of on the front of the tray that keeps it there. As you can see, it's that little piece that sticks out from the bottom there. So now we have our tray out. So, I mean, it's pretty basic. Set that off to the side somewhere safe, and as you can see, the board lifts up freely now. So the next step is to remove the old 72-pin connector. And the old 72-pin connector is on there pretty firmly, but it actually will just slide off, but it will take quite a bit of pressure. So my recommendation is to grab the console and kind of hold your pointer finger here, and then push with your thumb on this side, and kind of grab in a similar spot and other thumb on the other. So I'm going to do that now and pop off the old 72-pin connector. And there we have our old one. This one's actually in pretty good shape because I already repaired this one myself. But basically the issue is on this top side that you can see there. Normally the pins would be a little bent towards the top of, from your point of view on the screen. And so what you can do is take a paper clip and kind of reach it down inside of that slot. Don't put it in the black squares at the very top. You want where the cartridge actually goes into the connector. And you can just kind of pry the safety pin or paper clip, whatever you're using, against the pins, and it'll actually bend them back into shape. Like this pin connector here, whenever I got it, didn't work at all, but after I did that, this connector almost plays games flawlessly. The only reason I'm replacing this one is because for this video, and because I would just rather have a new pin connector in there, just for, I don't know, personal preference. But here we have the new 72-pin connector, which I'm going to install now, and it's pretty basic, you know, just how we got the first one off, just slides right on. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, now the new connector is firmly in place. Now we can begin to basically reverse the process and just rebuild it, you know, back from where we brought it. So I'm going to begin by putting the cartridge tray back on. Whenever you put this on, make sure you put this little clip on the bottom of the tray in first and kind of lip it under, otherwise it won't work. Because you got to put the slot on the new connector and then kind of wiggle it forward a little bit until it pops in. Alright, finally. Now the tray, you'll be able to tell if it lines up by whether or not the screw holes are actually in line, which mine currently are. So I'm going to start back by screwing in the cartridge slot. When you get to this part, remember that those two screws I specified earlier should go in not the top side of the cartridge connector, but the cartridge slot, but the one right below it. Alright, putting the shield door back on is actually optional. I mean, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to, but it actually has no function, obviously. It's just a piece of metal. So, I'm putting it back on because that's just my preference, but if you feel like skipping this step, it's perfectly reasonable to do so. Alright, now we're ready to put the original casing back on. Just slide it on top, flip it over, and start putting the screws back in. Alright, now let's go see if it works. Alright, got my NES plugged back in, my TV's ready. Let's see what we got over here. Let's test out Castlevania 1, that sounds good to me. Alright. I recommend you clean your cartridges before you start using your new pen connector though, because you can just contaminate it. But first thing you'll notice is whenever you put in cartridges now, you'll have to actually press them in. They won't just slide in, which is actually what you want. You have a much more firm connection. And first try, Castlevania boots up. Could have been just a fluke though, so I'll test another game. I'll probably test Castlevania 3. It's infamous for not booting up in a lot of consoles because it has a special sound chip. You can actually kind of see the connector in there. Well, if there was some decent light, it's right there in the middle. But anyways, so this one has trouble booting up because it's a little more hardware, effective. So we'll see if this one actually boots up first try. It'll be the first time I'd ever seen it happen if it does. So. Nope. I didn't think it was going to happen. But second time, well, it's glitching because I accidentally pressed the button and thinking it didn't work, but it did actually work. So. Well, at any rate, that's about all there is to it. Your NES is repaired now, so congratulations. Thanks for watching.